It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday. And this Feedback Friday, I'm re-recording this with additional information. I pre-recorded, wasn't happy with what I did. I'm doing it again. And hopefully I've got the microphone issues fixed. The pesky culprit, I think, was my wireless earbuds. The charging cable was wrapped around the microphone. I know when my cell phone is over the wire, it can cause interference. So it's a radio, right? So hopefully the problem's fixed. And it was a really interesting week for feedback. Like the video title says, I finished watching Adolescence. That will be the bulk of the video. There's a few things from other comments I want to talk about as well that tie in, because it continued my thoughts about the whole thing. And one, I'm not even touching the shit from Shadows. It's bad faith, and I don't say that about individual people who may believe very strongly in what they've been told. But one person pointed out in a response that the problem with the people who hate Assassin's Creed Shadows is the same with some of the people who are absolutely advocating for the game. They haven't played it. And I've played it. And it's fun. And it's an Assassin's Creed game. And we had a whole discussion on Twitch this week about how Assassin's Creed has always brought in ways to explain certain liberties they take with history. And I had the benefit of actually being able to ask some of the Black Flag devs about their historical litmus test back in the day. I interviewed them dressed like a pirate. But they said that it's a Google search test, that if it's disproven by, a brief Google search, then they don't put it in. But a lot of the times they use, somebody explained it to me. Basically, all theories are true thing. So whether Yasuke was officially a samurai or not is applied to the test. Do some people think he was? If so, then it's true. Because if you look at Black Flag, one of the things I asked them about was the fact that we don't know the ultimate destinies of some of these historical pirates. And let's face it, Anne Bonny and Mary Read were not super attractive the way they made them in the game. But in that game, that was one of the ones that shifted from using Desmond Miles' DNA to this sort of, they took his DNA and some other test subjects, and now they've created a video game. Abstergo Industries created a video game to kind of crowd farm searching for the pieces of Eden. And that's the whole concept behind it. And there are things in like, you can go into the modern day offices of Abstergo, which is based on the Ubisoft Montreal campus. It's pretty hilarious. But they say that they have sanded off the rougher edges of Edward Kenway historically, because he was a wife-beating drunk in real life. And so it's all there. And it just shows that the people who are expecting like hardcore historical accuracy do not understand Assassin's Creed. And then they'll say, oh, but the marketing. It's like, guys, you're applying a different standard because you've been told to. And that's the bad faith part. I don't think the individual people coming and yelling at me are all bad faith. I don't. I think that the information they have been given that has caused them to be this upset is bad faith. And I had a couple people this week saying, nobody else is making the arguments about Assassin's Creed that you are. And I was snarky. This is a very me response. I just said jokingly, well, I know, because they're wrong. Right? But there's some truth to that. And this is where I want to pivot into Adolescence. So I'll do the help support this channel and move on. Help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Lovely chats about these things. Coffee.com/LeannaK. The videos and the Leanna Care sessions work well together because they're discussion prompts. And I mean, part of the problem is that all the noise makes, good nuanced conversations impossible, and the best ideas don't get through. And I'm bullheaded enough to just keep going, even when people scream at me. And one comment that I thought was really good, agreed. It was, first of all, it was well phrased. I agree the negativity is a problem. I do think that we're at risk of swinging into, toxic positivity and talk. I'm paraphrasing because it was a much longer comment. And this particular commenter is constantly excellent commenter. So, and this is the thing. If somebody is constantly playing fair, then I take these things in good faith. And this was a good, yes, and I agree with you. Here's my concern. This is the way to do it. And I thought about this, and it's I can criticize, or I can say something I don't like, even about game franchises I utterly love. I said when I talked about Veilguard, the veil jumpers, I said the veil jumpers, because they're all Scottish. That origin is a mess in that game. Complete mess. Hacky. Worst writing in the whole fucking game is right at the beginning. Actively bad experience off the top. But I love Manfred and I love Emmerich, right? The overall game I very much enjoyed. I acknowledge that part I wish the devs had an ability to redo and patch. Similarly, the quality of life features they added to Elden Ring were a lot better. Quest trackers and quest markers would be great. I know that's not their design directive, but I personally don't like having to look up a wiki for things like that frenzied flame bullshit, because that quest is so easy to bark with the lady that eats the eyeballs. You're gonna fluke it. It's not enough information. And a little bit of extra signposting in those games would be awesome, especially with how many people play those games now. Now, I platinumed Elden Ring. I played through it 5 times. I played Erdtree. I loved it. I got right into the lore, but I don't believe these things are perfect. And that's a huge part of the problem, is just like the Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us 2 shit when they both came out. And that's why I feel so bad for Ghost of Tsushima, man. They are the edgelord game. And I say this as somebody who much preferred Ghost of Tsushima to Last of Us 2. Maybe I'm a bit of an edgelord. I don't know. But that game is not picking a fight with anybody. And it just keeps ending up here. And I mean, even I reviewed, formally reviewed the original Last of Us. And even that game, I loved it, but Naughty Dog has problems with their collision meshes, man. Bad. When I was streaming Last of Us 2, an entire fucking level disappeared. But when I was reviewing the first one, I had Joel get stuck in this tool chest. I was fighting zombies, cordyceps, and he got stuck. And I had to reload the game from the last checkpoint. And whenever there is a bug in a game that I have to reload, my personal rule for reviewing games is marks off. That's not getting a perfect score. And that was the thing that stopped me from giving the original Last of Us a 10 out of 10. I've never given a 10 out of 10 for a game. So I'm one of those people that can go, yeah, like Assassin's Creed Shadows is trying to be a lot to a lot of people. But it's fun. And Yasuke's bae. He is. I'm thinking about doing a video on just you want girls to like you, be like Yasuke. Oh my god. Dude has riz. And this goes into Adolescence. I finished it. I feel more strongly than I did on Wednesday's video that it should not be shown in schools. It is a show aimed at parents. I don't think it does a very good job there either. The thing I was ultimately left with is the idea that it does lean into this idea that there is something potentially monstrous lurking in the souls of boys, and if you don't monitor and like watch your kids, the computer will ruin them. And ultimately the issue is that you have to read between the lines of what's going on a lot. And there's sort of this central premise of the show that the dad isn't a bad guy. And the mom is, like stereotypical, so stereotypical. Oh my god, the mother's a cardboard cutout. And moms matter. Moms matter. Moms matter in the lives of boys. They only had 4 episodes and the format really locked them in. But moms matter. And they didn't get into that. And I had hopes that they would with her intense reactions to things, but nope, they didn't. She was just, oh, it's okay, dear, and all that stuff. And then sobbing, and then, oh no, but it's okay. I said nothing, said absolutely nothing. But my big concern is, the parents are so stressed and the parents feel so bad. And the parents, think of the parents. For the love of God, won't someone think of the parents? And kids are going to watch this and say, I cannot talk to my parents. I am a burden to my parents. Look at how bad things are for my parents because of me. And that's the exact opposite thing we need to have happening if we want the kids to be all right. We know that kids often don't involve adults in things because adults make it worse as far as they're concerned. And I can't say they're wrong. I mean, I see these video game conversations, and every time somebody says to me, nobody's making the arguments you are, it's like, yes, I've done something. Because everything ends up in these broad strokes camps, right? Whether it be video games, whether it be this adolescent show. And there's no nuance. There should be 10 buckets of opinions, not 2. You know, there's so much going on in Assassin's Creed Shadows that it isn't woke. It's fuck, who cares? Who cares, really? Even if it is, it has a right to exist. The same way, even if something, a virulently misogynist game, has the right to exist. People don't have to play it, you know? And people are allowed to talk about it. Like, holy shit. Now, whether Adolescence has the right to exist and whether it should be showed in schools are completely different questions. And I think I'm particularly protective of the actors because when I was young, I think I talked about this, I did educational materials for schools. And kids are fucking cruel about it because they can't distinguish between the teenage actor and the character they're playing. So those kids that were in that show are going to get fucking bullied. Good job. And the fact that the dialogue surrounding it became about violent misogyny in the manosphere, it's like, I can't even say the show is about that. I can't. There's so much going on and there's so little time. And it sort of centers around this very well acted but hacky as shit third episode where a child psychologist comes in and the boy goes all, Anthony Hopkins in training, just snap. Oh no, I'm a little boy again. Oh no, I'm not mean. Oh no. It's turned into a South Park episode. Like, okay, here's coming soon to South Park. I'm a little boy, Mom. I'm a little boy. I'm so scared. Can I just say it? Can I talk? I am a serial killer. I am so evil. Are you afraid of me, lady? But I'm a little boy. The kid acted his butt off. And the therapist acted her butt off. And I'm sitting here going, I have dealt with 20 young men who pulled that shit on me. And the idea that an experienced child psychologist had never had a guy trying to intimidate her. And the truth is that the minute you push back on people like that at all, they end it. Now, in this case, it was like a forensic assessment, so it was a slightly different story. But, I mean, some of that stuff is actually pretty common. Are you terrified by it? He's a 13-year-old boy and has no weapon. I mean, yeah, he could throw a chair at her, could do a lot of damage that way. Usually for that reason, it's heavily supervised. But, I mean, the room had books in glass cases in it. It was hardly a secure room. But, I looked at it and going, yeah, I've had conversations with men, teenage boys and men who tried to bait me with misogyny and try to make the conversation about my breasts and, my sexual prowess and whether I'm attractive enough. And an experienced psychologist is going to be, and yeah, they were going for dramatic effect, right? But it was very cliche, and the show ultimately says very little about what is going on with Jamie, the young man. It's left as this cipher. We don't know. We don't know why he did it. We don't know what his beliefs actually are, except for there was a really, really poignant moment where this boy, who he's an actor, of course, he's a cute kid. You don't put not cute kids on TV, especially not on Netflix. But he starts going on about how he's ugly. And this is how young men talk now. It's how young women talk. It's how young women have always talked. But it's how young men talk now. And we do know that now that women aren't dependent on men financially, and so there isn't social coercion into marriage, or, Jordan Peterson calls it enforced monogamy. We do know we have seen an uptick in shitty body image in boys, male eating disorders, and whatnot. And this is not the manosphere doing it. This is a very real anxiety in these young men that I think I would have preferred to see more of a kid and less of Loki meets Hannibal Lecter in that scene. And I mean, the kid was obviously heavily directed there. I don't necessarily know he knew what he was saying. And I would have preferred the kid was older. It wouldn't have been as shocking to people, but it would have made more sense that a psychologist would have felt more menaced by a 15 or 16-year-old boy that, at that point, the muscle mass is starting to get kind of there. He could overpower her. But it was disappointing because it was almost there, right? But it ultimately said nothing about what was going on in the mind and the heart of a boy that could have just been a budding narcissist with, antisocial personality disorder, or desperately wanted to be liked and thought that the way to do that was to act scary, and it got out of control. And it was sort of such a mess that I think Adolescence would have been more powerful. And I'm coming at it from a writing perspective. Again, it's very, very well acted, especially in that bloody single take format. Oh, do I hate it. It would have been great for the interview. Like, both interviews on the show, the police interview, the whole intake with the police, and then the interview with the psychologist, great. But do we need to see an entire fucking family car trip to the fucking hardware store? Jesus, I get the idea was supposed to be, oh, it's a nice normal day, and then dad gets provoked and he snaps. And as somebody who grew up with a parent like that, we knew it was coming. Can we just get to it, please? Like, ugh. Though, I don't know, the character there, again, the characters are all very idealized and very demonized at the exact same time. It's bipolar in the writing. And it's a Netflix show. Of course, the writing is going to be the weakest part of the whole bloody thing. But because they have this production schedule and, script lock apparently never happens. They don't get the scripts to a decent place before they start rolling. But I never, because it was supposed to be about boys and supposed to be about men and supposed to be about British society, it wasn't about Jamie and his dad. And ultimately, I think showing it in schools is going to give the opposite message to what is actually going to solve the problem. And one person said to me this week that, the idea that boys are the problem is the problem. And I said, yeah, and I've said this before, we can't encourage young men to empathize with young women unless they're shown empathy. We have to model the behavior that we want to see in these young people. We can't act in a different direction and expect them to do as we say, not as we do. And some people, you can give them all the empathy in the world, and empathy is not coddling them. Everybody needs structure, but boys especially need structure. And it was sort of weird to see how similar Jamie's experiences were to my own. Like, oh my God, the idea that your parents being publicly embarrassed of you is motive for murder. Like, only one of my parents is still alive. I was an embarrassment to my biological father on and off until the day he died. And I'm still an embarrassment to my mother, and I haven't killed anyone. What the hell? And they focus so much on the dad that what's missed is all of society failed this kid. And there are even inconsistencies in the show of, oh, he was in his room. What harm could that do? They established in episode 1 he was wandering the streets at 10:30 at night. And I actually asked some people I know in the UK, is that normal? And apparently, yeah, there's, kids kicking balls out on the street at 11 o'clock at night. And yikes. But it was inconsistent in that way. Like, no, he wasn't in his room on the computer the whole time, because he was also out roaming the streets at 13 years old. Like, which is it? And of course, if no one is investing in young people, they're gonna find some guidance somewhere. And the whole problem to me with the whole parental rights movement is that it is discouraging people who are not parents from investing in young people. And for the people that have good parents, okay, that's no problem. But people like me who needed external sources, needed a teacher in grade 6 to let me play Dungeons and Dragons in school, even though he clearly wasn't sure about it. You're discouraging that because, I had a father that went in there and raged at teachers when and so I stopped telling him things, because after the third time, it was 11th grade physics that I took in 10th grade. It was weird. Like, biology and chemistry were a grade 10 course. Physics was a grade 11 course. Why? I don't know. But, oh no, it was grade 10 science. That's right. Before it streamed. It was the same teacher who ended up being my physics teacher. But the teacher made a joke. And I went home and mentioned it. And my father freaked out. And he went in and he screamed at this teacher. And it was so fundamental to me that this teacher didn't treat me any differently. Like, that was the alternative version of masculinity that was very, very formative for me. Because the guy just took it and didn't take it out on me. And I respected the hell out of that. And it's like, oh, men can act different ways than my father does. And that's better, right? But according to the parental rights movement, no, the teacher never should have defied my parents. My father should have been the absolute arbiter of what I was exposed to, and that would have been fucking terrible. Because that means that teacher and numerous other male teachers that bothered to invest in me wouldn't have been able to. And that's one of the things that the show kind of touches on badly without really getting into any theories why. And we can make a bazillion shows about how our boys are in trouble. And unless we start finding some solutions of how to support and provide structure and nurture our boys, we're not going to put a dent in this. And a person said to me, we can't be saying, oh, invest in boys so things are better for girls. Do this so girls will like you. Do this so things will be better for women. No, the boys themselves have to matter. And I completely agree. And when you've got a 13-year-old of any gender convinced they are ugly, that suggests that totally the wrong values have been instilled. Because, we tried this whole body positivity thing and it's clearly backfired, because I hear it from, I model the language. I start going, yeah, you think I'm ugly. Fine. You think I'm ugly. So what? It doesn't matter, right? And that's, pivoting back to video games again, that is the whole thing. Like, boys talk to themselves that way. And then they go out and project that onto fictional women. And every woman who sees it goes, well, if that fictional woman is ugly, then that guy must think I'm disgusting. disgusting. And she's not real doesn't cut it. And one of the things I think was a mistake is apparently somebody told me that they didn't show the murder victim in Adolescence because, it shouldn't be about how she looks. And yet they did pull it in to how she looked. They talked about her being flat-chested at 13, holy shit. It's just, that made me realize that these guys are going out and calling these fictional women ugly because they feel ugly themselves and they're deflecting and projecting, and that makes sense. Okay. But the other thing that they show on this show is this guy throws every basic Becky bit of misogyny at this child psychologist that he can think of and then gets upset that she doesn't like him. And I think that's actual, that is real. I do see that. When I try to talk to these guys, it's ugly. I want to be pandered to. She's ugly. Women this, women that. And then I'm like, well, I don't do that. Well, I was like, okay, you're one of these, there are only two genders, guys. So the options are male or female, man or woman. And you say women do this. And so I don't do this. Am I not a woman? Dead silence. Dead silence. Because I think the answer is actually yes. They don't see me as a woman. Either I'm not gettable, or I'm not hot enough, or, there's a flaw in their worldview. And I think the truth is the reason they think that whole 80% of women are attracted to 20% of men, first of all, do the math. That means that 60% of women are going to die lonely. Right? But I think they think that because they themselves think that. They only aspire to the status symbol women because this girlfriend role and the social acceptance I think comes with it is where they're at, not I'm attracted to this person and I like them. It's all a battle with the self instead of actually forming connections with other people because their self-esteem is so low that they can't. We can do something about that. We can. Shows like Adolescence aren't going to do it. These ongoing fights about video games aren't going to do it. There's no satisfying answer for why they are so obsessed about, I can never remember the chick from Star Wars Outlaws name because she looks so much like Sigourney Weaver to me. And Sigourney Weaver did have that 70s into 80s look like Linda Hamilton did as well. They did have a squarer jaw because androgyny was more in. The supermodel was more in. But the frustrating thing is that, I was told I had a fat face my entire young life because I didn't have that chiseled jaw. And so now I'm too old to count in the minds of the hot police, but I'm like, well, shit, I was too fat-faced before, and now these exact women, it's flipped. It shouldn't be this way. There shouldn't be one appearance to rule them all. That's toxic. That's ill. And we can still have criticisms. Toxic positivity, I agree, is no good. But there have to be examinations of the criticisms. Is there fact here, or is this purely an emotional response? And anybody who enters to criticize has to, one, be prepared to defend that criticism, and two, be prepared to be criticized themselves. If you're going in and going, ugly, 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 you better be prepared to deal with very harsh treatment yourself. You can't go, she's ugly, and then be bothered that you're told you're acting misogynist. You started the harsh rhetoric. And it's funny because the guys going ugly, ugly, ugly woke were the ones that used to say, be prepared to be held to your own standards. You know, they were the ones that criticized the social justice warriors of yesteryear for not being prepared to, not there are no bad tactics, only bad targets. These are guys who think women don't like them because they're not attractive enough. It's not true. There's zero data to show that's true. I mean, what's his name? Pete Dickinson? He gets tons of women. He's a funny guy. He looks like a comedian, right? There's nothing wrong with the way he looks. There's just nothing. He's, starter character. And, guys like Seth Rogen find women. Oh yeah, he's an actor, but he's not the 666. Jack Black. Yasuke has Riz. I mean, yeah, he's a very conventionally attractive dude, but there's so much Riz in that character. Oh my God, like just do what he does. It's so good. But it's not about looks. It's not. And these guys won't listen to women because I think there's this idea, and it is toxic, that men get all the rejection and women never get rejected. And they don't realize that when you're calling a fictional character designed to be at least somewhat attractive, like attractive but not too attractive, when you are calling that female character ugly, you are rejecting every woman in earshot because very few women feel pretty. Shit, I don't. I never have. And I was a fucking model. You don't feel pretty. You feel like there's a shit ton on your face and your feet hurt and your back hurts and your head hurts because you've been pulled. You don't feel pretty. You're doing a job. You feel pretty when people treat you well. So if you're trying to score settle and make everyone feel shit, okay, mission accomplished. But you're putting rejection out into the world while complaining about rejection and claiming women never get rejected, and you're rejecting women. Oh, she's not real, but she is indicating your standards. And you're showing that, oh, if you're not, you must be this hot to ride. And hey, 80% of women out there aren't. You're rejecting. A lot of these arguments, a lot of these viewpoints make no sense at their core. And we need to figure out what's really going on here and what's really about. And my working theory is these men are being used. They're being used by manosphere grifters to push them into rejection so they will come back to the manosphere and give them more money. And that's not fair to them. These men, even though they're behaving badly, they're human beings, and a lot of them are decent people at their core. I can't save them, but I don't think they're bad people. But there's got to be something we can do, Not for things to be better for women, because these men are people. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. Thanks for watching, and have a great weekend.